City Paper Live, Pittsburgh City Paper's weekly talk show, where we bring you behind-the-scenes stories from our weekly and online coverage, featuring City Paper writers, friends, and guests. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to City Paper Live. This is Amanda Waltz, Senior Arts and Entertainment Writer for the City Paper, and I'm here with Tobin Seastedt. What's up, Tobin?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. So, Tobin, you specialize in a very interesting field. Mm-hmm. There's a term for it that I can't think of right now.
Yeah, entomophagy.
Entomophagy, which is eating bugs.
Mm-hmm.
And we had you featured in the latest issue, our animal issue. You talked to our food writer, Maggie Weaver, about your process about cooking bugs and eating bugs and what that's like. I'm actually going to take these headphones off because... but you brought us a couple different things. We're going to sample them later. You actually brought us a lot of things now that I'm looking in front of me. But could you kind of talk about how you got into it? I mean, I know the story, but it's really interesting because it has to do with a certain movie star.
Yeah,
right?
Salma Hayek.
Salma Hayek.
Yeah, she was on an episode of Ellen like years ago.
Yeah.
Like at this point anyways. And she had brought on stuff to make cricket tacos.
Oof.
Yeah. And she was just like losing her mind, just like about these tacos.
Yeah.
So I just kind of filed that away because I love Salma Hayek. She's gorgeous and amazing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And like fast forward 5-7 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think I might have come across like a festival in Austin like online that was it already happened or was coming up, but it was short notice, so it kind of reminded me of the whole cricket
whole
taco
bug situation.
Yeah. And I had actually inquired to a friend of mine about like insects they feed. Like she worked at the aviary actually, so I was like, where do you guys source your bugs? Like, are they local? Like, organic? But she had told me there was a reptile expo happening.
Oh yeah.
And I just like hopped a bus, went out to New Kensington.
Oh, you went out to New Kent?
Yeah,
for
it was. Yeah,
okay.
It was just like this small like.
Well, because I know they have one here too, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, downtown. Yeah, but because I mean, I think this might have been before I came across Fluker Farms.
Oh.
Because they were originally after this initial like reptile expo.
Okay.
Fluker Farms is where I got a lot of my insects.
Are they local or?
No, I forget where they're out of, but you can order online through them, and typically they'll send you live insects.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And but I know on their website they actually do a recipe contest, so they're like getting on board with the whole like people eating bugs thing, and I had actually written a review about the crickets I ordered, and they approved it. So it's on their website. So they must have been into it. Yeah.
These crickets were great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So that's how you you started ordering from them, and then just kind of, because I know that like you and I have talked about this, just in terms of, because you use whole bugs, but you also make cricket flour. Or is it cricket flour? Yeah.
Cricket powder. It's ground up. Yeah, ground up crickets. I have actually made it myself from crickets that I roasted, but nowadays I typically just buy it.
Okay.
Like
Oh, you can just buy it online?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How much does that usually run you?
It depends on the size. I don't buy it like in bulk. I usually just buy like
small ones,
$20, something like that. Like it's not. I mean, it's like
Well, I mean, it's almost like buying protein powder.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So because it's like bugs are just a huge source of protein in general.
Yeah. And it'll last you a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that presents its own difficulty because you bake a lot with bugs, and especially with the powder. You talked about there are certain flours that you've tried to make, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, the ratio, like the dough, like the pierogies.
Yeah, I believe you mentioned that in the article as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it just like gummy or?
It was, yeah. And it was
Yeah.
kind of gray because, like, like with the cookies, like,
Yeah.
you can't tell, like,
Yeah.
because, like, the cricket powder is like a dark brown
Okay.
color. And it just, with the pierogies, it just turned them gray and gummy and, Yeah, doughs like that, they're very temperamental, so.
Well, I think pierogi dough does tend to be a little, like, it is supposed to be kind of stiff anyway.
Yeah,
but I can imagine introducing that other element just really pushes it over the edge.
Yeah. I'd like to go back and try it, but maybe not with the, like, make pierogies, but maybe put it in the filling.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you got to fill those pierogies up with bugs.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I think that's probably a better option.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are your favorite things to make? Because I know that you have the critter snaps.
Critter snaps, yeah.
Yeah. Are there other? And the critter snaps are like ginger snaps.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they are ginger snaps.
Yeah.
They just have an extra surprise.
A little extra in them, yeah.
Yeah. Is that? It was a. Wait. What kind of bug do you use in those?
Cricket powder.
Oh, you use the cricket powder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In the critter snaps, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so, like, what are the other things that you like making?
Well, that recent, like, the apple fritters I made recently.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
very, very happy how those turned out.
The ones you made for Maggie?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I love apple fritters, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd had that idea in my head for a while, and I was like, it seemed like the perfect opportunity to, like,
Right. I
make
can
it a
imagine it kind of
reality.
like balance out a little bit with the, I think like the moist. Oh God, I just said moist. I think just like the apples would maybe like any kind of like drier. I don't know if like bugs would be a little drying or anything like if you put them in a.
I don't think it really. I don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine they contain a ton of moisture.
Yeah.
So maybe they're like a worm.
Yeah, and the mealworms I have are freeze dried.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh yeah,
yeah.
we have mealworms, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess like what are some reasons you think that would be beneficial eating bugs? I mean, I know that this is something that people are talking about now just because, there's a lot of people on this earth. And how are we going to feed all of them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, aside from just nutritionally, it is with the ecological impact of, and they're a lot easier. You can farm them a lot easier in, like, smaller spaces.
Yeah.
So they're really great for, like, urban areas. Like, you could probably even, have colonies like in your apartment,
Yeah.
like you don't need a lot of a lot of space for them. Plus their carbon footprint is,
Like significantly.
yeah, it's much smaller. And I'm trying to think. I'm like kind of blanking right now, unfortunately.
I mean, besides the protein, I guess. I mean, are there other vitamins, minerals that you would get from eating bugs, or is it mostly just a protein source?
Oh no, they're definitely a great source of other nutrients.
Okay.
Yeah, and like vitamins, minerals, fatty acids. Like
Okay.
You get a lot of like bang for your buck with insects.
Okay.
And because I think I mentioned that in the article, because like, you can start off with like, a small amount, but within a year get so it just their growth is like exponential, versus like something like a cow, which only has like 1 or 2 calves a year.
Yeah.
So.
No.
So I guess economically, it's also like beneficial.
Yeah. No, I mean it makes sense, and also I mean just the amount of land and just the amount of everything like resources to raise herd animals
Mm-hmm.
is insane. So, but with bugs, obviously, that's not the case.
Yeah, the resources required for that are
pretty small.
Mm-hmm.
So were you? It doesn't seem like you were ever grossed out by this because you seemed very attracted to it.
Yeah.
Just from the beginning.
Oh yeah, I was. Yeah, I will say there are some insects or bugs that I like a little bit grossed out by. I had actually, when I was still working at the library in East Liberty, I came across, I think it was a permaculture book.
Okay.
So it was like about worms. And they actually had, I think, some recipes in the back of the book.
Okay.
So I guess the idea of like eating an earthworm is a little bit.
Is it just different, just the texture? Or
I
just
think
the
so.
idea of
Yeah,
it?
yeah. I would definitely probably fry those suckers like before I eat it. Like.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of worms. I think it's the movement, the way they're like very slinky.
Yeah.
It grosses me out.
Yeah.
They're also always wet, which. Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like mealworms are like they're definitely like.
But they're
just like the larva stage of a beetle.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm learning so much today. So I guess like what are some things because understandably, people are grossed out by bugs. The idea of eating bugs would not even cross their minds. I guess like what are some ways you think that what are some things you feel like you could tell people like to help them get over that that hesitation to even like try it?
I would say I guess I would probably like remind at least inform people that it's like, well, you don't have to eat the whole bug. Like with cricket powder, like it's in, a broken down form. It's a lot more palatable.
Yeah.
So if somebody's kind of like squicked out by the idea of eating bugs, I kind of try to like, well, here's a cookie, and you can't even tell.
No, yeah, you really can't.
Yeah, like my mom was like that initially. Like she wouldn't eat what I make, but she loves these cookies now.
They're great cookies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've tried them.
Yeah. Other things, I mean, like a lot, like there are a lot of people around the world who already practice eat insects. It's something that has been, it's the human history of, like eating insects.
Yeah.
Is there.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I mean, it's like you mentioned Salma Hayek. I'm sure that wasn't the first time she cooked with bugs, and it's yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, in other countries, it's kind of like, well, this is just normal.
Yeah, it's commonplace. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not a last resort.
No,
which I think a lot of people might think is like, well, you don't have any other food, or they think about maybe where the country is that's like eating insects, and they have this idea of like maybe they think it's a third world country.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh well, they don't have food, so obviously they're resorting to insects.
Yeah,
but it's like there's, I think in Africa, and I want to say it's termites or some kind of insect there is actually costs more than some kinds of beef.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like people seek it out because it tastes good and so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, escargot is snails.
Mm-hmm.
People eat that.
Oh yeah.
And it's considered like haute cuisine. Like
right.
Yeah. So I mean, it definitely makes sense. And to me, I'm a vegetarian, so, and I also grew up on a dairy farm, and we slaughtered cows and everything. So. To me, it's just like you're already eating flesh. If you are an omnivore, if you eat meat, it's like you already are eating another animal's skin. So if you think about it that way, it's like, how is eating bugs any less gross? I don't know. Yeah. That's how I think about it anyway. Not to judge anybody's choices, but I don't know. That's just kind of how I approach it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of like the people's aversion to eating insects, I mean, we've been raised it's like with this idea that like insects are, they're disease ridden, they're dirty, it's like where they live is just like, under rocks or under like,
Oh, yeah.
I guess just like trying to educate people that, yes, there are some insects that are like vector, it's like they, like mosquitoes, they,
right, yeah.
can transmit disease, and but they're not all like that. And even with when I was getting live insects, you can clean them by boil them. Once they're euthanized, you can do that. But I think I'd also tell people it's like they're very keto friendly and paleo friendly. So it's like if somebody's on a particular diet, they're like, hey, here's something else to try.
Gluten free? No, just kidding.
Not sure about that actually.
No. Yeah, it's also interesting to me because it's talking about if you're thinking about how dirty a bug is. I was raised around cows, not clean animals.
No, not at all.
Like not in the sense that like it's their choice not to be clean. It's just if you raise any kind of herd animal in a certain environment, I mean, they're corralled and guess what? They're sitting in their own poop. So if you want to talk about like, oh, it's not clean, well, you got to kind of like contend with that.
Exactly.
Do we want to sample some things?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have the pecan pies, which are, I'll let you open it because they're your pecan pies.
Yeah. I had actually, when I first started,
oh my God, they're so cute.
The first recipe I actually made was pecan pie bars. And
that's right.
Yeah, and I won a recipe contest with that.
No way.
Yeah, through entomophagist. I would say. Yeah, they're one of the places that I get like the cricket powder and the whole roasted crickets.
Cool. Okay.
So I figured these would be less messy than bringing in.
We can be messy here.
But there, and I did put a little bit of bourbon in there.
Oh yeah, because I think when you and I were talking, you were thinking about making no-bake bourbon
balls. Yeah.
Okay.
When I was at the store, I forgot one of the ingredients. Basically, yeah. I was like, all right, that's not happening. So
that's fine. Okay, so we have our forks. So what kind of bugs are in these?
The roasted crickets.
Oh, very cool. Are they whole roasted?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let me see if I can. Actually, I might just pop this out and eat it whole.
Oh yeah, that's probably a good idea. Well, that's the thing with like pecan pie. It just like it kind of soaks into the crust.
Oh, we should mention that you have a business around this. We didn't even mention that. So Crickets to Betsy is your business.
Crickets to Betsy.
And that's what that's kind of how you sell these products. But it's not obviously a huge business, but you are I believe you're going to be, or you were at the Freaky Fair. Sorry.
Sorry. I have my mouth full. I was there in the spring, and I will be there, this November.
Oh, what day?
It's the 2nd and 3rd.
Oh,
and I will be there all weekend.
Ooh, these are so sticky.
Yeah, I love pecan pie. Is like one of my favorites.
I'm just gonna eat right into the mic. Wow. Yeah, I can't taste anything. This just tastes like a delicious pecan pie. And I'm not a fan of pecan pie. And this is very, very good.
Excellent. I'm glad you like it.
I love it.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about like cooking and baking with insects. They have their own distinct flavor, but they work in well. Like you won't typically like taste the insect.
Do you ever feel like you have to sort of make up for that? Like, do you ever feel like you have to add something to make it taste less buggy, or to make I guess just to make it taste just like a regular dessert?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm not tasting anything.
Yeah. And it's actually kind of interesting. I haven't actually dipped into raising insects yet, but there's a practice of, it's called herb feeding. And you can actually feed the insects particular types of herbs to give them a flavor.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So is this So that's a pecan. Is this a cricket?
That is a cricket, yes.
Okay. So I don't know if you can see. This is a full-on, like, I mean, thorax and all. And I'm eating it. Yeah, it doesn't taste like anything. It just tastes like... I mean, there is a little bit of an aftertaste, like, but it is so slight.
Yeah.
It almost tastes like... because you can taste... I mean, the pecans taste like the pecans.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you eat the bug, it almost tastes like a little bit like if you roasted a nut.
Yeah.
Like if you just like really, really roasted it.
Yeah, and it's like, and the mealworms in particular, like have a very nutty flavor to them.
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I've eaten
Yeah,
those mealworms. They just taste like really delicious. I don't know, like a very mild nut.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's really good. Okay, let me have one more bite and then we'll move on.
Okay.
How long did it usually take to make these?
One of those, I'll hold it up to the camera so they can get a closer look.
Okay. Producer Josh is gonna.
Because it's kind of far away.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you're looking at that pie, the little sort of like darker bits are the crickets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can see them. You can see them. Don't be afraid. It's okay. You can eat them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're gonna try your famous.
Critter snaps.
Mmm.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Ooh. Okay. God, these are good. Ooh. These are more cinnamony than I think the last time I tried these.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I ended up. I thought they actually turned out a little bit more gingery too.
Mmm. They kind of remind me of a snickerdoodle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, can't taste anything. This just tastes like a really, really delicious cookie. Yeah.
What's in the cookie? Or what's the bug in the cookie?
Oh, it's
Cricket powder.
cricket powder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry. I thought we covered that.
Yeah.
Probably did. I missed it.
So when you are... So you've been to, like, various events with Crickets to Betsy. Do you find that people are pretty, like, receptive? Like, they come up to you and they want to try things? Sorry.
Yes, I think people are very curious. I was actually thinking about this earlier.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because one of my, from when I was at the Freaky Fair back in April, one of my favorite things was seeing people kind of like approach the booth and just kind of like look at the sign and look at what was on the table. And they just get this like weird kind of embarrassed like smile on their face.
Really?
Like, yeah, it was actually pretty funny and really cute. It's just like, oh, that's bugs. Like
That's bugs, all right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, people like to try. I had samples, so people tried a lot of the samples. Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, do you find that these tend to be like the critter snaps? Is there something that's like more popular than the other things you make?
Yeah, I think the critter snaps were definitely they were more popular. I had
They're very, very good.
Yeah, I had made scones too, and
Oh.
yeah, I had a limited amount of those, but they sold out.
Okay.
People really liked those.
Are they like a particular flavor or?
I did. I think they were like a honey lavender.
Ooh.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
sounds very nice.
Mhm,
Okay.
Yeah, because I actually like that honey lavender combination. I've done it as a cookie
Yeah.
and cupcake.
It's delicious.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it smells amazing.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna have one more of these critter snaps when we talk. So yeah, like when did Crickets to Betsy start? Like when did you kind of like? I feel like I always ask you a question as soon as you went into something. I'm sorry. Like when did it officially begin? Like.
I mean, it was like shortly after I had first started making things with insects, like
Mhm.
the pecan pie bars. Yeah, I think it was just, I mean, I was at a place, like I, have been in a transitional,
Mm-hmm.
like a journey, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah. But because at the time, I mean, I was working at the library, but that wasn't like my end goal.
Right.
So I think I was just kind of like, this is really interesting. It's like I'm very interested in it. Like I became, quite passionate about like, not even just like the insect, eating the, bugs, but just like everything around it, like what we discussed about,
Yeah.
like the nutrition and ecological impact and economics.
Sure.
Especially, actually, like, because I think I was telling Maggie, I don't know if I see Crickets to Betsy being like a business, like a consumer business,
Right. Yeah.
you know, down the line. I'd actually like to get into farming and like to get into like more being an educational resource for people.
You want to be bug farming?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, and with also the focus or the intention of making it very accessible to you know people in Pittsburgh, like regardless of whether you know it's like socioeconomic class, you know, because it should. I mean, you know, it should be available to everybody. I mean, I think a lot of things should be available to everybody, you know.
Yeah.
Or people should have access, but that's definitely like accessibility.
I mean, do you think maybe getting to because I think you've done some classes, and were they geared more towards like younger people or?
I did a workshop with the library.
Okay.
I think that was actually before the Freaky Fair, and that was actually an adult, like adult workshop, like hands-on. They do like a hands-on like DIY workshop kind of thing. And we didn't end up making anything, but
you kind of
talked to them a lot about, like
I'm just wondering if maybe like getting to younger people, like maybe getting to like elementary or middle school and kind of showing this process to people. And to like younger people, if they would, I don't know. Do you think kids would be more open to this?
I've heard other people's experiences. Like kids have definitely been more, because they haven't quite had that like, oh, gross bugs like thing ingrained in their, you know, in their heads just yet. Well, at the Freaky Fair, like the kids were like, some of them were into it, some of them like were definitely like, you know, not down.
Yeah.
But that's definitely a like.
That's something
that would be.
You'd like to look into.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, any elementary or middle. I don't know if high schools. That's probably too. It's probably too late.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking. Yeah. It's interesting too because you talk about urban farming, and I don't think that this is an area. I mean, there are apiaries. You know, there are gardens. I don't think that this is an area that is as explored. For a variety of reasons. I think this is something that you would like to see become more of a thing in Pittsburgh and beyond. Like maybe people being more open to this.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And especially like, I mean, kind of like having apiaries associated with like greenhouses or like public gardens, like because then it's, you know, you're growing the food, you know what you're feeding, you know it's quality, you know it's, you know, healthy. Versus, you know, like I guess that's kind of the downside about buying live insects from like say you know another source, because a lot of times those are feed crickets, like they're feed insects. So they're meant for, you know, reptiles. And birds, and you know, so you never know. Like you don't necessarily always know what they're being fed.
Right. Yeah.
So, but with it on a local level, like that was the idea. Like I have this fantasy of just like finding a vacant lot somewhere in the city, you know, planting a garden, having a space for like the insects, and just like
just having
going to town.
Every woman's dream, a lot full of bugs. I think that's amazing though. I love that. I love that is your dream.
Yeah.
I think that's so interesting. I mean, is this I had a question and I forgot it. But anyway, I'll tell you what. Let's get into some of the other things. You have some more like savory items.
Yes.
And this is one of my personal favorites.
Yeah.
This is
the chapulines.
Chapulines adobe grasshoppers. I love these. I actually requested these specifically.
Yep.
I love these so much. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, yeah. I don't know. Well, you definitely can't see them, but it is definitely like an entire bug.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're dried up. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's the good stuff.
they're very good. I need to like order more of these.
Oh, these are so good. I almost like stole these from you. I was just like, oh, you taking those home with you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, these are so good. I think it's just like I'm a total spice head, so these are definitely up my alley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and do you know of any restaurants, not even in Pittsburgh, but I guess just nationally, that do put bugs in their recipes?
I think locally, I thought Scratch was doing that.
Really?
Like with an alternative protein menu. I don't know if they still do it.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think that was like when I initially got started. So a few years ago, I saw that like pop up. I think in the bigger city, bigger metropolitan areas.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are. Oh my gosh, I just actually like. I think early this summer there was a video floating around of this woman who has like a jerky stand somewhere.
Really?
Like, yeah, and just like kind of snack foods. But she was making, taking pretzel rods and like dipping them in melted marshmallow stuff and rolling them in ants.
Oh yeah.
And selling them. Yeah.
That I want.
Mm-hmm.
Like 100% I want that.
Yeah.
Oh, do you remember where that was?
I'm not sure. No.
I imagine because you mentioned Austin. I imagine it's probably around areas like Texas and
New York City, Brooklyn Bugs in New York City's
Brooklyn Bugs?
Yeah, it's not a place. It's a account on Instagram that I follow. But there's a chef associated with that, and they do like pop-up stuff and other things. Yeah, I was gonna try to like hook up with them, like when I was in New York City, like after being on the podcast.
Yeah. When you went to see Hadestown. Mm-hmm, yeah, that's right. Oh, wow. Interesting. Yeah. And then that's, I guess, like, do you think that, have you seen any interest from other restaurants or other places that are like, maybe we want to try this? Because it seems like, I think people, from what you're talking about, do you think people would be surprised at the culture surrounding this, that it's actually more prevalent than people would think?
They might. I mean, they might be. They might not be surprised at like where it's, like places like Austin or New York City. Like it doesn't seem like that out of place.
Yeah.
Because there is such a variety of options, and Austin is just Austin.
Yeah. 100%.
But I mean, as far as like personally, I haven't necessarily seen. I mean, nobody's hitting me up or anything like that.
It's like, hey, girl.
Yeah.
What's up with those bugs?
But I mean, there is actually. You'll find out like more and more places are trying it. I mean, I think I even made the comparison to Maggie about like sushi.
Oh yeah,
like,
for sure.
When that
sea bugs.
Yeah, and that like when that initially came on the scene, like people were like, raw fish. What is
Absolutely
this?
not. Yeah.
And now you can get it in the grocery store.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it is. Yeah, you're right, because that was there was a food culture, I think, for a long time in the U.S. that was very restricted, and that has obviously been remedied to a certain extent. But I think bugs are kind of like the newest frontier, it seems like.
Yeah, and I think one of the things also is because it's so new and because of like FDA restrictions or regulations. I think it's just a matter of like navigating those and figuring out, like getting everybody on board of and clearing it like, yes, these are healthy and yes, these are the practices that like, provide the safest product.
Yeah. I mean, is that something that you have to deal with your business, or has that not come up?
It hasn't really come up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you're not like at a level, I don't think, that you would have to do that.
Yeah, and like for the Freaky Fair this year, in November, I'm doing like more of a giftable product.
Okay.
So it's like just putting like those cookie jars, like the cookie mix jars and stuff. Yeah. So I'll be making up stuff like that, and like
very
probably
cool.
some pancake mix too.
Oh yeah, bug pancakes.
Yeah, brownies. I don't know.
Bug cakes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just while we're talking. So the last one, and this is the buggiest of the bugs here.
Yeah, because that's just straight up Straight up mealworms. Yep.
These are just mealworms.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, even though I know they're dead, I still think they're moving.
Yeah, well, just the way that they move around each other is, yeah.
Yeah, well, because they're just... Josh, do you want to get these up to the camera? Yeah, they're just mealworms. But you can... Oops. You can see... Yeah, there they are. Mm-hmm. They are definitely dead, but I still think that they're moving. Oh, yeah. All right.
Were they prepared in any way, or are they just...
Yeah, these are just the freeze-dried. Yeah, I ordered them like that. I actually got them from Fluker Farms, freeze-dried.
Like, even when they're in my hand, I'm like, ugh. Yeah. Bottoms up. No, drop one. Oh, no.
They're kind of crispy, kind of...
Yeah, I ate it off the floor.
Yeah, I'll go off the floor. Let me hit one of those.
Yeah.
Mm.
They're pretty good. I mean, they just...
A lot, like, flakier than I would have, like...
Yeah.
There'd be, like, more body to it. Interesting.
There's a certain tang to them, too.
There's, like, a back end.
Yeah. There's a certain tang to them that I really enjoy personally. I could see this being really good in a, like, in a stir fry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Are there, like, are there savory, like, cooking, not baking recipes that you do with these?
Oh, yeah. I did the... I've done a pasta sauce with them, with the crickets. I've done... I really love making omelets, so...
Bug omelets?
Oh, yeah. Definitely have done that.
Wow.
I did actually, and I also made these meatless meatballs.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because sometimes I like to bastardize vegetarian
You're
and
fine.
vegan recipes. But I made, they were just, like mushrooms, breadcrumbs, and I threw in some cricket powder.
That sounds great.
Mm-hmm. They were really good, yeah.
Okay. Do you want any of this?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay. That's
I'm
fine.
full.
I've had my fill of mealworms. Wow. So are there any bugs that you think would be off limits, or that you think would... I mean, I don't know if, like, more, like, venomous or really poisonous bugs. Like, would you not be able to eat those?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some, like, not all insects are edible. But as far as things that are venomous, I mean, people eat scorpions.
I was about to say,
like,
I
actually made a toffee with freeze-dried scorpions. And tarantulas. I even actually saw somebody made an hors d'oeuvre with those giant, like, Japanese hornets. Like the ones that will chase you for miles if you piss them off.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
They chase you?
Yeah.
Hornets are the worst.
Yeah.
Let's eat them.
But they had made, somebody had made like a little hors d'oeuvre thing with like one of them that's like on top.
Really? How big are they?
What? They can be. Oh yeah, they can be big. They're big. They're big suckers.
So if they sting you, it's like, oh, you're done.
Oh yeah.
Like
it's not a pleasant experience. Yeah, it's not a pleasant experience. Yeah.
You said tarantulas. We actually have a story about Instagram pets, like sort of unorthodox Instagram pets, and one of them, Dani Genet, she has a tarantula, Della Champagne. So, but one of the things she actually said that I thought was interesting that I wasn't able, due to word count, because I wrote that story, she said that apparently tarantulas are very delicate.
They are.
And you have to, if you have one, you have to put down like a lot of bedding, so in case they fall, their abdomens won't explode.
Oh yeah, because I think they're actually, I thought I heard that they were like, it's almost like hydraulics.
Really?
Like they can, like if they kind of spring a leak, then they're just done for.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's like, yeah.
Well, because it's so bulbous. They're yeah. Oh man, tarantulas. I'm actually not afraid of bugs, like at all. I think like I'm afraid of frogs though.
I've heard that.
Yes, I am afraid of frogs, but not bugs. So yeah, don't send me any frogs, you guys.
Yeah. I shouldn't tell you about the dream I had the other night with a toad.
You had a dream with a toad?
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate it. They're so awful.
Yeah.
No, I don't. One of the things I hate is when you tell somebody you have a phobia of something, especially of an animal, and they're like, so when you see a frog, do you just want to kill it? I'm like, no, I'm not, like, it's on me that I'm afraid of that frog.
And I don't think that's how phobias really work.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I'm not a monster. So I guess, like, if people wanted to start dabbling in this, like, what would you recommend?
I would definitely recommend if somebody's like, I guess if somebody is like starting from the like just base level, like they might have a slight aversion to it, but they're curious, I definitely say order some cricket powder.
Okay.
Like get some of that, throw it in. Even like I do it, like I'll throw it in pancakes sometimes, like just for breakfast, just like toss a couple of tablespoons in with the batter.
Get your shot of protein for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And or it's like, I mean, and because it's like Entomofarms, and I've also ordered from Cricket Flowers. I think they're like Northwest based. Like you can order whole roasted just about anything.
Okay.
Well, not just about anything, but as far as like the basics of like mealworms and crickets.
Yeah.
So that takes the kind of work out of it for like beginners. Like I actually just went like all in. I was like getting live crickets,
like, give me those bugs.
Yeah, like doing it all. But yeah, just, I mean, like, and you can even like look on Amazon.
Oh, really?
Or just like Google, cricket powder.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's probably mostly like you'd want to order from, a small business.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's, Cricket Flour is a pretty small business.
Really?
Probably not. Probably not at this point, anyways.
There's no huge like corporations like Cricket Powder Corporation. Big Cricket. You're in the pocket of Big Cricket.
There's also like is it Cowboy Cricket Farms?
I like that.
Yeah, they're located. They're actually opening a new farm in the Midwest.
Okay.
And but there are farms that people.
Yeah.
So if you just like cricket farm, like Google cricket farm.
Yeah.
Those are actually like geared towards human consumption, like.
Yeah. Not for, because you mentioned like reptiles. It's usually for reptiles. Are there any in Pennsylvania?
There used to be.
Oh, okay.
There was, I think just like some weather circumstances, bad seasons, like they
Yeah. Do you think that there's like preferred climates?
Yeah, well, yeah, because with the, because actually I was reading about the herb feeding last night with like worms in particular, like mealworms, waxworms, hornworms. Keeping them at least like 80 to 90 degrees is, ideal. So they do prefer like warm, because otherwise they, and especially actually with like herb feeding in particular, because you want them eating, and ingesting the
for
the
sure.
herbs. So when they're warmer, they're more active, they're hungrier. But when they're colder, then they tend to become more dormant, slow moving. They're not as they're not eating.
Right.
So, and that's what I mean. Like the preferred method I have for euthanasia, or like when they're alive, is just putting them in the freezer.
Okay.
Yeah.
It kind of like puts them to sleep. Is it like a stasis?
With crickets, it's like a half an hour and they're done.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Mealworms, on the other hand, they take a couple of days. Because they will go like they'll go dormant, and then once they warm back up, I think actually tarantulas can be that way too.
Really?
Or like spiders, yeah. Or maybe it's or scorpions. Yeah, it's like a lot of insects are just like they're used to all right, it's cold, it's hibernation time.
Time to sleep.
Yeah, but I definitely tried like after an hour pulling the mealworms out, and they were still moving.
No.
I was like, oh, okay.
You gotta cook them suckers.
Yeah.
Are you averse to cockroaches?
Mm-mm.
I mean, I didn't think you would be, but
yeah, I just haven't gotten my hands on any. I have this idea for like like more of a Valentine's Day thing. Those big dessert like strawberries.
Yeah.
And you can like put, it's like some people like put like cream filling or chocolate filling or something, but let's, essentially like stuff like a cockroach in there too.
Wait, what?
Like dip them in chocolate.
You want to make cream-filled cockroaches? Is that what you're saying?
With a straw, yeah, in this. Or cream and cockroach-filled strawberries. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So is it just gonna be like a cockroach just like shoved into the middle of the? Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Got a little crunch with your beer.
Yeah.
Have you had cockroaches before?
No, I haven't. That's one I haven't tried yet. No.
Wow,
Yeah.
interesting. Are they just like hard to find or?
They can be, yeah, and they're a little bit more expensive, and you can only really order them, or they come in quantities of like smaller quantities than like ordering, like 1,000 crickets or 1,000 mealworms at a time. I actually saw, speaking of like feeder stuff and cockroaches, because like Petco has those like ready to go containers now, and they've had cockroaches, but they're like these tiny little guys.
One of the big ones like that you see. Yeah.
Except one of the last times I was there, they had these like giant, like almost like Madagascar-looking cockroaches, like the hissing cockroaches.
Oh yeah.
And I felt so bad because they were in such a small container. I actually wanted to take them home and just like put them in a terrarium.
Yeah, because I would think like cockroaches would not be hard to. I mean, would not be as expensive or hard to find because they're a big problem in a lot of cities.
Yeah, they're available. Yeah, because there's definitely like water beetles. Those are not as easy to find because they're not necessarily like the big ones. Yeah, they're not like those giant suckers aren't necessarily native to a lot of.
No, that's true. Yeah. When I went to Charleston, and I just remember getting bit all the time, and there were those huge palmetto bugs. They weren't the things biting me, but it's just bug central down there. It's so awful. But I just remember seeing the palmetto bugs, and I was like, that's a cockroach. Guys, don't spice it up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, are we on time, Josh?
It's 10:52.
Okay.
So your call.
Okay, we can kind of like try maybe like wrap it up a little bit.
I do have one.
Okay, Josh, you ask a question.
I just looked up cockroach farm or cricket farm, so now I have a better idea. But like, how do they harvest like the bugs? They have to capture them in some like. How do you collect them for distribution after you've grown or fed or however you?
Yeah, usually with that, I've seen like a lot of like those egg crate, like big egg carton kind of things. You can actually because they'll hide in those, so it's easier to like kind of shake those out in a bucket or something. Yeah, but keeping and I've seen like the process of like they have to remove the young ones from or keep the eggs separate from the adults because they will eat them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I actually bought a book about raising crickets, and that was one of the things. Like, you have to make sure there's like either separate the eggs or make sure there's like mesh over them because the adult crickets will like go after them.
Really?
Yeah, but it can be like it's a process of just like separate
It's like a hand picking situation.
Well, not necessarily. Yeah, I mean, like
it's not like you go to an orchard and it's like, ooh, it's like apple picking.
Right.
You gotta collect them somehow.
I know. I just like the idea of like some couple being like, oh, we went apple picking and like just their bucket of crickets.
Yeah, like usually. Usually you'll have all of the same like age range of crickets, so it's like it'll be easier to like you don't have to worry about like mixing up like small ones versus
And I mean it's like that with any farm situation if when you're working with animals. Well, here's something I just thought of, and this is definitely not necessarily Pittsburgh centric, but I feel like this can be a problem. Stink bugs.
Yeah. Well, there was actually somebody at Phipps who made a dip with stink bugs.
Yeah.
So
Really?
Yeah.
Who was at Phipps?
I forget what his name is, but a friend's sister was like there was like a dinner party, and everybody brought a dish, and one of the guys
He brought a stink bug dip.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. What was that like?
I think she said it was it was kind of tangy.
Yeah.
Just having accidentally squished those guys, and that taste that gets in your mouth,
Because to be honest, here's the thing. I have a weird, I wouldn't say affinity, but I don't mind living with bugs. Mm-mm. Like stink bugs absolutely do not bother me.
No.
And I used to think their defense mechanism was just dumb. It's like, well, if you stink after you're smashed. What's the point of that? But if like predators learn after a while, like, oh, that bug stinks.
Yeah.
If you squash it, then I was like, oh, that actually makes more sense. But I have tons of stink bugs just crawling around my house. I don't care. I love them. I think they're great. And when I lived in Syracuse, I was there for a year for grad school. We lived in this house and we noticed like these bugs just crawling around our bathroom, like when we would take showers and stuff. And they almost look like lightning bugs.
Okay.
And we were like, what are these lightning bugs doing? And there were tons of them. And we looked it up, and I think they're called box elder beetles.
Okay.
They're just these little, they look very similar to like a lightning bug, but they're a little bit bigger. Totally harmless. They just like to be indoors in the winter. Like they'll just come indoors, and they like to be in warmer spots, which is why they go in your bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I guess they're just living with us. And so they were like our roommates. And I just remember I would be in the shower and they would just be crawling all over the walls. I'd be brushing my teeth and one would like crawl across the mirror.
Yeah.
I'd be like, hey, what's up, buddy? Like I have no problem with being around bugs at this point. I mean, I do get bit a lot, which is a problem. I'm fine with spiders. I think spiders are very, very important and you should leave them alone.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think like the idea of living with bugs, eating bugs is, especially in Pennsylvania where it's like our climate's slowly going to become warmer and we're going to have more bugs. I think that's a reality we're going to have to kind of like confront.
Exactly.
And so I think that this is a really interesting and important conversation to have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, learning to like, adjust and live with,
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, and another one, cicadas. Would you eat a cicada?
I have not, but I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look like they would be very, I don't know, because when they die, they get kind of like, I feel like they just become hollow, don't they?
Yeah, because there's a lot of moisture and like,
yeah,
in the guts and stuff. But I've heard they taste like walnuts.
Oh.
Yeah.
I could see that because they're little. Like I feel like their exteriors are maybe like a little bit harder too.
Yeah, that's why I think it's better to harvest those like when they come out, like when they first come out, because their exoskeletons aren't
like fully formed.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that. So when they're out in the elements, then they start. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, very cool. Yeah, I just like the idea of almost being like truffles. Like, oh, we gotta go find those cicadas.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, why don't you give us? So you're going to be at the Freaky Fair. Could you tell us the date, location, and time?
Yeah, it's going to be November 2nd and November 3rd, down in the Southside Works at the old like H&M storefront.
No way.
Yep.
Oh, is that H&M going?
Mm-hmm.
That shows us how many
right.
times to go to the Southside.
Yeah. And the times are Saturday's the night market, so it starts at like 4 or 5. And goes till about 10. So yeah, I think it's like 5 to 10. And then the next day, Sunday is starts at 11 or noon. It goes to like the early evening. So.
Oh, nice. Okay, so we'll be there for a while. And will you have like So will you have like critter snaps or like what kinds of stuff will you have?
I'll definitely probably have some critter snaps. But I'll be selling, the jarred.
The kits, kind of.
Yeah, the cookie, probably some chocolate chip or chocolate chirp cookies.
All right.
Brownies, maybe some snickerdoodles. I
love snickerdoodles so much. And if people wanted to find you, because you have Crickets to Betsy's on Instagram, I guess like where can people find you just out on the internet?
Yeah, well, at Crickets to Betsy on Instagram, and just search on Facebook for Crickets to Betsy. Okay. We're on there too, or I'm on there too.
Yeah. So follow Tobin if you're curious about life with bug cuisine.
Right. Yeah.
What? How do you say it again?
Entomophagy.
Entomophagy. Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, Tobin, thank you so much. This was awesome and very delicious. And thank you for listening to CP Live, and we will be back next Friday with another new exciting guest.